Hello, my name is Marcus S. McNeal, and I am 25 years old and I am from Montgomery, Alabama. This year, 2019, is our municipal election, and I have chosen to throw my hat in the race. You may ask, why, at such a young age, would you choose to throw your hat in the race? You may say you're inexperienced, you haven't lived long enough, you're not aware of the issues that plague our community, or you don't have enough experience to run such a large municipality. But when you think about the city of Montgomery, Alabama, and you think about politics as well as government, it's one big, huge corporation that is ran by a CEO that determines the laws and the rules of which we, the citizens of Montgomery, Alabama, live by. Those laws and rules are dear to my heart, which is why I've decided to run. Not only because I live in this city and from this city, it is because I desire to see this city prosper and to invoke innovation all across it. Not only for the youth, but for our middle age and our seniors who live in our communities. You think about the politicians today who get before you and make a bunch of promises. And they come to your churches, they come to all of your events, doing campaigns and rallies. And once they're in office, it's like it's hard to get up with them. I don't think that the mayor should be like a corporate person to reach. I think that they should be like your neighbor. And as soon as you call them, they're generally on the spot to call you back because you're what matters. I believe that politicians should go back to the definition of being a servant of the people first and everything else afterwards. I have five core issues of which I'm running off of, and those core issues matter to me the most. Started from our city budget to our education system, all the way to transparency in our government, strengthening our relationship with state, and also our homeless issue, as well as our transportation issue. These core issues are important to me because they are the basic key principles that keeps a community thriving. Let's consider our city budget that brings in over 200 million a year, but we only are able to add a million in reserve. Why? Because you look at our city expenses, they keep going up every year. We're able to brag that we're bringing in more revenue every year. But what does that matter when your expenses keep going up every year? Only leaving a little money in reserve. And with a city that has less than 40 million in reserve, this size, to me, that is a problem and that is an emergency. If one major catastrophe, one major disaster hits this city, that can nearly wipe out everything we have in reserve. I believe that as the mayor, when I or if I should take office, my main focus should be to look at our expenses in every department that make up our municipality. See how we can make cuts, see how we can extend other areas to cover other areas where we can then put that money back in reserve. Look at individuals who've been sitting in seats for a very long time, who can afford to go home, and allow us to open up entry level positions for graduating college students who would accept a lower salary to do what they're doing, therefore leaving more money back in our budget to place towards something else. I think that the budget is very important in considering resources for our nonprofit organizations, infrastructure such as our streets, inner communities such as dilapidating houses and abandonment. When you are able to reserve more money towards getting rid of these properties and adding value back into your community, then you're on your way to a successful, thriving community. Let's take a look at our education system. Year after year, election after election, you have each politician promising what they would do for the education system. My number one concern with a promise to any type of education betterment is how can you promise something that does not belong to you? Our education system is a county system. It is not a city system. Therefore, giving the mayor no power or authority in that education system. So how can I, as a mayoral candidate, tell you what's going to happen in the education system? Yes, we may work with the school board and we may come to certain type of agreements, But at the end of the day, it is still up to that school board of whether they want to honor those agreements or not. I am open to working with the current system, but I am not as open to such a lengthy process to see results. I feel that a city that is the home to two major Air Force bases should be very much thriving in education, as well as one of the most competitive cities in the Southeast, seeing how we have so much resources to bring forth a good and strong education. I feel that when we get into the next administration under Montgomery, Alabama, education should not be taken lightly as it is now. And if we don't see results, we take action as a community. Starting by calling our state senators to bring upon the state floor, allowing us the resources to be able to bring an election within the city of Montgomery so that the residents of the Montgomery, Alabama can accurately vote on the education system. Let's consider our transportation issue here in Montgomery. A lot of our workers who work at Hyundai have no way to get there. That's because Hyundai said they don't want a bus route to their plant. But how when half of our workforce is there? Not everyone there has cars. And half the workforce there are temps. Many would argue this point, saying that Hyundai employs 80% or 90% permanent workforce. I would argue that very much because how much that workforce are actually residents and citizens of Montgomery, Alabama. Those that are temps. Temp companies have thrived and made huge profits since they've gotten here. But the turnover on temps are very high. I think that's very inhumane. Not to consider the homes of those that work in your facility. You use them one day, 3 weeks later, you fire them, bring them back in another position, then you fire them. I think it's time that we take a bold stand in this community and demand that we make working in Montgomery better for every individual. That includes providing transportation to such a major facility so that workers who don't have cars or who did have cars and may have lost those cars may be able to keep their jobs and be law-abiding and tax-paying citizens in the city of Montgomery, Alabama. So when it comes to our transportation, I think that as mayor, I would bring upon the floor how we can improve our routes, make better routes, get extending routes, as well as how we can accommodate the funding that we already receive for transportation, look at it and see how we can reallocate funds to better serve our city. Let's look at our relationship with the state government. Very weakened under this administration. Not so powerful. A lot of hidden agendas. I think that transparency one begins a more lucrative and honest and trustworthy relationship with you. And when we can get that done, then we can open up the doors with our state government to build a more lucrative and beneficial relationship. Especially reigning in the same territories, there is not one good reason why we should not have a excellent relationship with the state. I think that having any government saying we didn't know that was going to happen, or they didn't communicate to us this was going to happen, shows a lack of responsibility on any administration's part. And I think that we must take responsibility, and the mayor and the governor of this city should be really close. Something that is very dear to my heart this election, of course, is our schools and our universities. Being only 25, I wanted to stand up and let Montgomery know that we too care. We too have a voice. Don't write us off as young, inconsiderate, not experienced enough. We do care. Our relationship with our universities in this city is past poor. We really need to reach out to the youth that come to the city every year from all over the United States. Freshmen in colleges such as Alabama State University, Huntington, Faulkner, AUM. All of these new freshmen that plant themselves in our city. These are what we call our seeds. Yet we don't take the time to let them know that we know they're here, that we care that they're here. We want them to stay here after they finish their 4 year or 2 year term at their various schools. I believe that it's time that we build a college university alumni day in this city where all colleges come together. Downtown Montgomery, Alabama, to have an event that's that solely celebrates higher education and reaches out to them and make them a part of this city by having various activities, building various organizations with the college students here and letting them know that we too desire for you to make this your home afterwards. But we can only do that if we begin to work together. We must begin to work together in order for this city to move forward, in order for innovation to take place, in order for it to begin. All these things are only the tip of the iceberg. And I only can tell you so much. And I can only promise you so much. But it takes getting on the other side of that wall to really get an in-depth movement going on. I don't believe that a politician should make big out the box promises and then when they get on the other side, they can't come through on it. I promise you I will be a person that stands firm and bold and proudly represent the citizens of Montgomery, Alabama, because I too am one first. Before I'm anything else, I'm a citizen that has lived and worked as well as opened businesses in this city to try to boost the economy here, but have had major challenges and faced major hardships. That is what I run on. The platform that I too am a citizen first. And I care to what happens to Montgomery, Alabama. It's not about being the first black mayor. It's not about making that history. It's about the economy first. I hear a lot of people say so many black candidates running. You're splitting the black vote. Not necessarily true. Because who's to say that if all the black candidates but one black candidate drop out, that all the African American people are going to vote for that black candidate that's left? That's not true. I believe that we as a people have to listen to the issues of each candidate. And I'm not going to speak against any candidate that is running. Because at this point, my response to all of that is if you have so many candidates running, there is no excuse that we shouldn't choose an individual that we would head in the right direction. You have no excuse this election. Get out, make your voice heard, make your vote count, and do what matters.